This is an incredible, versatile style of chironomid. Watch this technique that I'm going to use that turns it into a much more versatile style.
Yeah, that's a big brown throw.
Okay, new hook alert. This is one of the hooks I've been waiting for quite a while. In general, for stillwater, chironomids, little leeches, there's not been a super great, really strong, heavy hook, but in smaller than, say, 10. So Fulling Mill's new lineup of grab gape heavies solves that problem. And they go down to, I can't remember, maybe 18, 16. So anyway, this one here is a great chironomid profile. I like it. Does have a straight shank, a little bit of a downturned eye, but also kind of a progressive bend like you will see with chironomids. They are bendy. So this is more of a style, but the cool part is that we're going to be able to change the colors and make it even more versatile based on just one material change, basically. So I'm going to start off, take the bead back, and I'm going to tie in a very small amount of thread to get some breathers. And I'm using my favorite now, I've done breathers and different things, is Glow Bright. Number 16, the fluorescent white. And the way I do it is I'll get a length of this and then I fold it into fours. So I have one length, fold it once, fold it twice. So now I've basically got 4 strands going on. And I'll just overlap this over the eye of the hook. I want to keep minimal wraps here. Then we'll go in front of it. A couple of wraps prevent that from going off the front. And then we'll trim and whip finish. One nice thing, and I don't get tired of saying it, these Chironomid scissors are super sharp and super fine. They're good for getting there close. And here's another thing that I'm going to show you with these scissors. It's pretty cool. So I've got my breathers. I need to trim them. Actually, let's whip finish first so we avoid a disaster. Okay, nice and minimal. 4-turn, 3-turn whip finish. And there we go. Now, to trim these, this Glow Bright can be a squirrely material. It's synthetic, a little slippery. If you don't have good scissors, it won't cut nicely. We do want these to be, because they're breathers and they'll tend to go off on each side, I do want this to be a straight, even cut. But let's say that I trimmed these and one's messed up. This is the test of your scissor. If you can cut Glow Bright or like GSP or any other synthetic kind of softer, slippery material, if you can cut these with just like that, you come in here and just a trim of just that much, boom. That's a fine scissor. That's one of the tests I use for a good sharp scissor, is if it can trim small amounts of very fine synthetics. So guess what, Chironomid? You passed the test. So we're just going to push these the bead up on over the top of the breathers, and we're going to start in with some thread, and I'll go with red thread here. And this is actually a fairly simple pattern once we get into it, and that's one of the reasons I like this more as a style of pattern, is that you can mix this up. You could use a bigger bead than this. For this hook, you could go up to a 3/5 even if you wanted something that sinks quicker. And then you mix and match the colors, because chironomids change color, and they are different colors as they progress from larva to pupa to adult. So I'm going to work my thread down, and I'll go just as we're into the bend of the hook, kind of like that. And what I'll do is tie in. I've got 2 things I need to tie in. One is synthetic peacock quill. That will be the overbody, so that's going to get tied in first, and then we'll have some tinsel. So the way I tie this in, it has an adhesive side. I like the adhesive to be towards the fly, so I'll just tie this on my side facing me, get a good Whoops, I'm going to redo that one. So I tie this in with a point, like so, and that will help it go around the bend of the hook a little bit better. And again, I want this adhesive side down. So that's what I'm looking for, is to get that to go down. Couple wraps, don't need much there. And then I want to work my way up about a bead's width from the tie-in point. So we do want the bottom portion of this to show red. And then I'll tie in my tinsel. And this is just Mirage Opal tinsel. Opal is one of my favorites for chironomids because it really does match the color of the pupating chironomids, which becomes real important. And this red thread isn't going to show through too much, but I do want to build up a little bit of taper because these chironomid pupa do have a bit of a taper, but not too much. I still want it to have a thin profile. All right, work my way right up behind the bead. And I typically like to use some hackle pliers or pliers of some sort. Just helps me put enough pressure on this. And then just wrap all the way up. I leave a little tiny bit of space, but not much. We can always go back over that if we need to. All right, now our body quill, or the synthetic quill. First strap you want to pull somewhat tight because you want that to lay down. And then I'm just going to work my way up so that segmentation is going to pick up the red there at first. And as we work our way up, slightly overlapping wraps with that little black stripe kind of following us up. And if you've got a rotary vise, this is a nice reason to use it. I don't use the cradle, but you could as well if you wanted. Locking wraps in front. Now we're just trim this off. All right, at this point, we could just whip finish and fish it like that, but that wouldn't be fun. Instead, I'm going to grab a little bit of fluorescing UV clear. You can use whatever UV resin you like. I like this one because it does have some UV reflectance with it that I personally think makes a difference. So, and this is going to be a very thin coating, and you'll see what I mean by UV reflectance here. It does not fluoresce. Take off the excess, but if we jam the light on this, you can kind of see those highlights it gives it. Maybe not a big deal, but I think it's cool. And I think it makes a difference. I've had enough times where a fly with this coating on does better than other flies of similar build, but without the coating. Okay, this is almost done. Really simple. We're going to add some orange UV eye stub, one of my favorite dubbings, and this is a tiny, tiny bit. Yes, just enough to add what would be the orange from the wing buds, and then just build up a little bit more of a hot spot so it's pronounced there. Red, because these pupa have orange, red, silver, black, and I do too. And that is it. The thing that you can do differently here, if you wanted to get a red version of this, you would simply use red tinsel, and here's an example of one that has the red tinsel. And so that's the only difference. Instead of using the Mirage Opal, you use red tinsel. I like the medium size. And now you've got a red one. So remember, with chironomids, you really do need the darker red and blacks. You need silver and blacks. You need reds and silvers. And then especially these with some kind of sparkle to them. And so that's why I say this is a style. You can use it for a lot of different styles and colors of chironomids, but this is a good one. We'll leave the description, in the description below, we're going to leave some links to the materials. You can tie yourself, and check us out at flyfishfood.com.